Hello, this is Citizen Journalism by Daniel Helms. So, what is citizen journalism? The TED Talk video in our Module 2 describes citizen journalism as when a citizen witnesses and records events. Citizen journalism allows anyone to participate in mass media as a producer of content, not just a consumer. Because typically, as not part of professional journalism, we only consume content. We don't typically produce it, but citizen journalism allows us to become part of the producer side of that, not just the consumer side. So the history of citizen journalism. So citizen journalism began around the 1960s, but it really changed a lot in the 1990s. I have a quote from one of our articles. In the late 1990s, such activists began employing the internet to foster affiliations and stage events against the excesses of neoliberalism and transnational corporate capitalism. So this was how the internet gave citizen journalism the ability to help people organize different activist events. Another quote from that article I have is, bloggers have themselves as techno-activists favoring not only democratic self-expression and networking, but also global media critique and journalistic socio-political intervention. Blogs are partly successful because they are relatively easy to create and maintain even for non-technical web users. Now, while we don't typically blog anymore, this was a good first start. It helped a lot of people who were not really tech savvy or maybe didn't have the ability to properly maintain a lot of typical citizen journalism to be able to maintain their activist things. How is citizen journalism democratic? Well, firstly, the mass media or professional journalism no longer has a monopoly on reporting incidents, since anyone can report different instances. We can get a lot of different perspectives. Secondly, people in countries that do not have freedom of speech can report instances anonymously on the internet. So if you live in a country where free speech is not a given, you can sort of go around that through the use of anonymity online. And lastly, people get to report the things that they want to share. So typically, with professional journalism, you only get stories that they want to cover, but as a citizen journalist, you can just cover whatever stories you want. You don't have to wait for the news and hope they cover certain stories you are looking at. How is citizen journalism accurate? Another quote from the TED Talk video on our Module 2 was, the best camera is the one that is there during the incident. Since professional journalists may not be right there at the time of certain incidents happening, but a lot of citizens obviously are. Citizen journalists can help people get a broader picture of what is going on during certain instances, therefore give them a more accurate picture. Secondly, people know things about instances that the mass media may not know. So while professional journalists do occasionally go around to different citizens and ask them questions about what's going on, they're not going to get the whole picture because there's obviously going to be someone who knows something that did not get asked. So with citizen journalism, those people can report the things that they do know about the instances that were not necessarily covered by the professional journalism. Citizen journalism is not just about the facts. It can also be about how things make people feel. Another part of the TED Talk showed an incident where a church had been destroyed by, I believe it was a hurricane, and citizens were not just reporting what had happened, that it was destroyed, they were reporting how they felt about it. This can sort of connect us. So I have citizens report how they feel about instances in addition to the facts, and when citizens report how they feel, it connects people from different parts of the world to help them understand as well. So while professional journalists might just say, church got destroyed in a hurricane, citizen journalists could say about specific life moments that happened in that church and therefore connect to other people around the world with their experiences. And lastly, I have when people understand each other better, manipulation from mass media is more difficult because it sort of helps us to humanize one another, whereas occasionally just reporting the facts can be a bit dehumanizing from professional journalism. And lastly here, everybody has a voice in citizen journalism. And this is a double-edged sword. Everyone has a voice, therefore we can get more accurate information, because some people know things that the professional journalists may not know. But at the same time, everyone has a voice, therefore we can get wildly inaccurate information. And I also have those people aren't really held accountable, whereas professional journalists would be held accountable for saying wildly incorrect thing. And one final thing, citizen journalism can raise tensions. So citizen journalists can say whatever they want in order to inflame issues and raise tensions. And we see this on the internet all the time, where people are intentionally inflaming certain issues and demonizing people who have different perspectives. And I have, when tensions are raised, people who listen to certain citizen journalists can act more hostile due to perceived tensions. This is sort of getting into an echo chamber of citizen journalists who all spout the same things and therefore make people think badly of others who have different perspectives. And that is certainly a thing that can happen with citizen journalism. The first article that I wanted to cover is citizen journalism in the Syrian uprising, problematizing Western narratives in a local context. And for this one, I want, for the positive aspects, I have citizen journalism liberates through organizing activism. And the quote is, the success of Tunisian and Egyptian activists in using social media to organize mass protests that forced their country presidents to step down. So mass protests were organized through citizen journalism to help people, or to push politicians that they didn't like to step down. In that same article, I have the negative aspects that were covered is citizen journalism subjugates through organizing terrorism. And the quote I have is, the ISIS invasion of the second largest Iraqi city, Mosul, and large swaths of the country with little resistance by the army was attributed to their skillful use of digital media. In wars gone by, advancing armies smoothed their path with missiles. ISIS did it with tweets and a movie. So it can also help organize terrorism if you were not careful about citizen journalism. The second article that I have is, Aren't We All Journalists? Citizen Journalism, Disinformation, and Weaponizing of Social Media Conflict, Torn Mali. For the positive aspects, I have citizen journalism can complement professional journalism. And the quote I have is, non-professional and professional journalists work side by side in Mali, not by competing, or not only by complementing each other's work, but also confirming their presence of a hierarchy. So in this, we have journalists can work with the professional journalists in order to create a more completed story. And for the negative aspects, I have citizen journalism can reinforce unfair power structures. So the quote I have for this is, the dominance of politicians and educated urbanites from Bamako and several cities in the conflict zones, and politician indicates Twitter network maintains privileges and hierarchies there within. the usage of this platform extends existing social networks into conflict. This is basically saying because the educated who are able to use Twitter are typically at the top of the hierarchy, they're able to spin narratives to keep themselves at the top of the hierarchy. And that is certainly a negative aspect of citizen journalism. And that is the references.